like, listen, I want to hear a little bit more as we get into this about your journey. I mean, obviously, we know a little bit early in your career about the dual sport, playing basketball at Connecticut, signing and playing baseball, and then only playing 3 months of baseball and then having to go right into a basketball season and make that transition. But I think Jonathan and I and the people who listen to this would love to hear more about your journey moving forward into the mid 90s, into the late 90s. And then obviously, I think we all know that you played with the Bulls and you played with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, and you were on some unbelievable teams. And I'd love to hear about the camaraderie and about the connection that you had with some of those guys.
Yeah. I'd say to start off, like, the crazy thing about my journey is, like, we all have to be confident in what we do. I was confident because I threw hard. So I knew I could find a way, I can learn how to be a great pitcher. But I was less confident in basketball. And I think that's why I chose basketball, because I was afraid to fail. I was afraid to get embarrassed. And when I went to play baseball, I knew everybody else was going to basketball workouts, getting better on the basketball court. So, but I love that challenge of trying to catch up to people and just be as good as them or better than them without playing basketball all year round. But I think looking back at it, baseball, I might have been better in baseball in the long run. I might have, if I stayed healthy, I might have had a longer career. But that challenge of being afraid to fail made me play basketball. And knowing that I only played basketball a certain amount of time compared to everybody else, and to getting drafted in the first round, I was like, wow, I must be pretty good. Let me see how far I could take this. And playing against the best players in the world every night was the challenge I loved and look forward to. And early in my career, I was young, athletic, before I had a lot of injuries. And I played with a young team. I was with Alonzo Mourning, Larry Johnson, Muggsy Bogues. All those guys were like 1 year drafted 1 year ahead of me. So in Charlotte, we built a really good team. But management wanted to, anytime someone's contract came up, they would trade them. We never got a chance to be really, really good. But I did learn a lot from those guys. Then I got traded to Golden State. So now I get traded to Golden State from Charlotte, which we're winning, to a team that's in last place. And it was miserable out in Golden State. I love the guys. Chris Mullin was out there, Mark Price, Sprewell, Joe Smith, a lot of talent out there, but it was just an organization that wasn't in the right place. Then luckily that summer, I get traded to Chicago. And it's like you get traded from the worst team to the best team, and probably the best team to ever play, and play with the best players to ever play. With that being said, you're nervous as hell, because now you played against MJ. He kicked your butt all the time. You've heard about him. You heard about the Bulls' reputation of why they're the champions. But when you step on that court, the first day of practice, it's business. The funny games are over of laughing and joking. Their job, one goal is to kick everyone else's butt and win games. And that's why, and if you saw the documentary, he challenged you each and every day. And people think, you should have fought him. Why would I fight the best guy to ever play basketball? All he's doing is let me know there's no free rides here. You're going to get better every day. And this is the way winning teams do it. So, and obviously if he joked with me, he liked me, because if he didn't like me, he would have had me traded. So he liked me, he enjoyed me. He just wanted me to be a better player, more focused player, which I needed to be. So I enjoyed every day going to practice. We're still friends, we still talk, but that man is driven to destroy in practice and in games, and never took a day off. It was awesome. And they reached the goal. I mean, when I got there, they won 5 out of 7 championships and 2 in a row. So I knew this is probably my last time to ever get close to winning a championship. I better, be focused, understand what I'm doing on the court. And being the only new guy in the team, it was hard for me to learn the triangle offense right away. So you're out there playing without confidence, knowing I'm a better player than I was showing, but you're trying to fit in with a team that's been together for 7-8 years. So I loved every bit of it. And people, it makes me laugh when people say you should have fought MJ. I'm like, why am I fighting the guy that's trying to make me better or challenging me to become a better and tougher player? That's what you want. If you're a competitor, that's what you live for, So it was exciting.
I was gonna say that I'm thinking as you were talking, and it's funny because Steve and I are very similar mindsets. As Steve was saying it, I was thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And what I was gonna say was that when they're going to Google you until the end of time, they're going to remember you for two moments, Scott Burrell. One of them you touched upon was Michael Jordan yelling at you. You know, Steve will always be known for pitching in the 9/11 game. And you know, it's funny because he's involved with New York City, you're Connecticut. It's amazing how you have those two signs behind you. It's like you're almost prepared for the show perfectly. Because Steve is so known for New York, you're so known for Connecticut. But you know, MJ yelling at you and being part of the Last Dance will be number one. But number two was the decision right or wrong to go to college? You hit one of the biggest college shots ever, right?
Yeah. Threw a pass against Clemson to take George to go to the Elite Eight. But then Christian Laettner, the next game, did it to us and knocked us out of the tournament to go to a Final Four. So yeah.
I gotta tell you, because that Christian Laettner shot is always why he got drafted, and everybody loved Christian Laettner because that big shot. But I didn't realize you're the one who got into it before Laettner, as far as making the big shot, getting your team ahead.
Yeah.
Only to have Laettner go and do that, and you got to be thinking in your mind, you got to be kidding me. I hit one of the biggest shots ever. Now this guy has got to do this.
I know, back-to-back games. And the thing that makes you even more sick, Duke wins all the time. And UConn, that was Duke's first year. Yeah. So you were tired of seeing Duke. You're tired of hearing the arrogance of Duke and referees calling every foul for them. So we're on the verge of going to the first Final Four in UConn history. And obviously Laettner hits a great double pump shot. And the thing about it, I fouled out like 2 minutes before that play. So I feel like if I was on the court, I'm going to take the ball out and did something to change it for us to win that game. So, yeah.
And I got to tell you the other parallel, which is it's amazing between you two, the synergy. We're going to get into coaching soon as well. But the fact that you have the Last Dance with Jordan and you play with Jordan, Scott, and Steve plays with Derek Jeter. And what's the series that's coming out now? The follow-up to the Last Dance? Of course, the Captain.
Yeah. Hey, they're both legends. They're both the best in their craft. And the thing about it is they're both laser focused on being great. They're both, when they stepped on that field or they stepped on that court, it was business. And they both excel.
Steve, I got a question.
So the funny thing is, I was going to say, so the funny thing is that Scott's telling his story and his journey of going through basketball and getting to the Bulls and, you know, playing with Michael Jordan and how he's teaching. If you would close your eyes, or if I would close my eyes and hear him talk about that story, and he would not mention Michael Jordan's name, I could plug in Derek Jeter's name in exactly what he said.
Yeah. Oh, John, the thing about MJ is there's never a day off. That man is turned on at 110% every day, all practice, lifted every morning. And like when your leaders are your hardest workers and your best players, it's easy to fall in line. It's easy to win. It's easy to buy into something. And that's a lot of times nowadays, like I coach now, like you were about to say, it's hard to find. I'd rather take a lesser talented player than the lesser talented player that works his butt off than find a superstar that's not bought into team and is not a great leader. Because you're going to get the most. He's going to be self-motivated. You're going to get the most out of him, and he's going to pull guys to be better. Guys are going to see him work, and they're going to want to become better. So, I mean, that's hard. That's one thing that's hard about coaching now.
Scott, you used the word branding, you know, and that's a very strong word, because if there's ever been a brand on the face of the earth, it's called Jordan Brand, you know, and I collect Jordan 1s. It's the only shoe that really fits well for my feet, actually. I wear the high OGs, so I have that's all I ever wear is Jordan 1 high OGs.
You're a big Willie. You're a big Willie. You're a big spender. Let everybody know, John. Let everybody know you're a big spender.
Okay, I got a lot of beaters, you know. It's okay. I tell them I got them at the outlet. Don't worry about it, you know. But I get to see Michael Jordan every day because I see him on my feet, you know. And you know, Steve, having played with Derek Jeter, I think almost when you're with them in the room, it's one thing. I know people that have been in my life, but when you see how big they've grown into brands, it almost blows your mind how big these guys have gotten, right? Like they're like the GNP of a whole country. They're that big.
That's true. I was playing golf with MJ about 4 years ago, and I was like, MJ, isn't it amazing that these kids have no idea how good you are in basketball, but your brand is bigger now than it was when you played? Social media. His shoe, the brand Jordan is enormous all across the world, and people love his gear. It's amazing. And I'll tell you what's amazing. He doesn't have the same social media that LeBron has or Kobe had, but it's still bigger than all those other guys. Kevin Durant, all those guys have huge brands, but MJ's brand is still bigger than all those guys, and he hasn't played in 30 years.
There's just something about him, Wayne Gretzky. It's just this allure that they are literally at another planet. No matter, you got Gretzky, and then you got Sidney Crosby, and then you have Jordan, and you have LeBron. It's different. These guys were just almost godlike when they were playing, and they really stood out as men among boys. It was like obscene almost.
It really is. It's true. Very true.
So we got an important question for Steve now. Steve, when the captain comes out, how many episodes are we going to see of Jeter yelling at you?
I don't think you're going to see any, to be quite honest with you. I mean, you might see the A-Rod Jeter footage of what they went through, but you got to understand, Derek, he's very similar to Jordan in that way. When he's more alone in the clubhouse, pulls you aside, talks to you like that. Not that MJ didn't do that, but it's just a little bit different when you're on the court than when you're on a baseball field. It's very different in my opinion. I mean, I know you're competing in both, but everything's just a little bit more spread out in baseball. Like Jeter can't yell at his left fielder or his right fielder because how far away he is. But MJ could walk up to Scotty at the free throw line on a timeout or on a dead ball and say something to him, right? Whether he's yelling at him or just kind of pumping him up or getting him going. So the parallels are very similar, but Derek Jeter did it in a way that was like he was very classy about it, and Michael did it his own way. But Derek would, it's just a different sport, as Scotty says. Like you just can't yell at people on the field. It's not a good look. The cameras are on you all the time, and you're in a documentary, with The Last Dance, so they're showing footage that's going to be pulled out of why these guys were pushed and were to be the best that they were during the time that the Bulls were on their run. And there's one thing that I got to ask Scotty is Dennis Rodman. Like, can you give me a little bit on this guy about how he is in general on the court? And then maybe, is he very similar off?
Yeah, Dennis loved to have fun. I'll tell you that, and it's obvious. So like I'll tell you what's funny though. When he went to Vegas, I didn't know he went to Vegas because all I was worried about doing my job. And it was funny. That's the only thing I didn't really know about the documentary, where he went. But there was other days he would miss practice. Dennis liked to have a good time, hang out with his friends, and Phil let it happen because he knew Dennis was going to come back after his day off and be focused on what he has to do. But Dennis boy was when I played with, he was about 37, 38, unbelievable shape, lean, ripped, quickest guy off the floor, watched tremendous a lot of film, and knew his craft and would antagonize anybody on the court. But Dennis was a bad boy that loved to have some fun. And I went out with Dennis maybe once or twice, and I was like, I can't do this anymore because he's going all night, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't go all night. Yeah.
Steve,
what a tremendous player.
Oh, unbelievable player.
How do you think Jason Giambi or David Wells would have kept up with Dennis Rodman back in the day?
I think they would have handled it very well, to be quite honest with you. As Scotty was talking and I asked that question about Dennis, there's a couple guys that always pop in my mind about how they enjoyed, the time off the field and really like to have a good time. But when they came to the ballpark, they were laser focused and they knew exactly what they wanted to do and how they were going to go about their business. So again, more parallels. It's very similar to, different sports with guys, how they handle themselves on and off the field and how they challenge themselves and how good somebody can be, even if they do some things, that are a little bit late night.
And I was surprised with Jordan because, one of the things is he wasn't always known as the nicest guy on the planet. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but he was an intense dude and rubbed a lot of people the wrong way and still became an iconic brand and still doesn't apologize to it to this day. Even though he's a team owner, has this branding, he still does things his way. Jeter, if there's one person that ever really, protected his brand and made sure it was him, and I've never heard anything besides the word class spoken in that word. And if I had to say now, I think LeBron and Jeter are more as far as protecting their images, so to speak. But that's because, even Jeter was more in that era, in the social media era, and protecting your likeness.
Yeah, I see what you're saying about that too. Yeah, definitely.
Now, one of the last question I want to ask you about basketball before we get to coaching is, you talked about starting off on the Hornets. You played with some great players. The Golden State Warriors that you played on was not the Golden State Warriors we see today. Like, they were an utter mess, to put it lightly.
I think we won 32 games that year. I only played there.
How?
Yeah, I don't know how we won. 29 or 30. But we had Sprewell. We had Joe Smith was the number 1 pick. We had Mullen.
Who was your coach at the time?
Rick Adelman.
Was Adelman? Okay. And then you go Last Dance, and then you decide, hey, I'm going to go over to the Nets.
Yeah, I played 2 years in New Jersey. It was a little different. We were on the close to being very good, but we had a lot of injuries. It just didn't work out well. Coach Calipari got fired during the year. It was just a different organization from top to bottom. I think, like I said, leadership is key, and I'm not sure if it was great leadership or leadership by players or management that just didn't have it work out to make them as good as they could have been.
So let's get to the last parallel between you, because I just figured it out now, by the way. Some of this stuff happens organically as you go along. Steve starts off with the Oakland A's, feels the need to finish off his career with the Oakland A's. You start off with the Hornets, and you decide to retire as a Hornet.
Yeah, it's true. I had a house down there still, and I had 13 surgeries in my NBA career. So
wow.
I was coming back from a knee injury or Achilles injury that year, and I started working out at the training facilities with the Hornets, and I was getting better and better, and they saw my progression. They're like, "Hey, we'll put you on the roster if you want to still play here." Because I was thinking about going overseas at that time. So I ended up playing the last month of the season with the Hornets and playing on their playoff roster, and that's how I finished up there. But my body was beat up I had 8 knee surgeries, like 2 shoulder surgeries, 2 Achilles injuries, tears. So and a hand surgery. My body was beat up. So I went overseas after that.
Now, that was location-wise, was the reason that it was convenience to be there?
Well, they saw I was working out, and they saw I was good enough to be on the team. So, I mean, if it was another team or somewhere else, it would probably been a different situation. But, I mean, I would still be able to play. I was still healthy enough. When I was healthy enough to play, I was still talented enough to play. So, Bob Bass gave me an opportunity, and I played for Paul Silas at the end of the season.
And same question for Steve. When you end up, one of the things we touched upon, but we never really gone into it. You started in Oakland, ended up back in Oakland. Was it the conscious decision to finish with the team you started with?
No, I actually got traded there the second time from Cleveland. So very similar to Scotty's story. Again, playing baseball, I ended up having 9 total surgeries, 6 on my elbow, 2 on my shoulder, and 1 on my back throughout my career. Shoulder surgeries ended up taking its toll. As I got back into, spring training in 2006, I went to spring training on a minor league contract with Cleveland, ended up not making the team out of spring training, getting sent to AAA. And it was technically, my last rodeo too. At that time, I was 34 years old. My body was breaking down, had plenty of surgeries, but still wanted to compete and grind through it and try to play. And I'm about 3 weeks into the season. I'm in Ottawa, Canada. We're playing Ottawa. It's a AAA team. I get a call from Mark Shapiro, who's the GM of Cleveland. And he says, "Hey man, I just traded you. I just talked to Billy Beane. I just traded you to Oakland. You're going to the big leagues." And I'm like, "Okay." And then Billy calls me as I'm driving home back to my house to pack up on all my stuff. And we had a couple good laughs. He's like, "Hey man, I traded for you when my daughter was 3 and now she's 16. So, 13 years later, you're coming back to Oakland." And I was very, very appreciative of the opportunity. They had a lot of injuries going on. So I went there, I pitched May and half of June. And unfortunately, I just got to the point where I couldn't compete at the level I wanted to compete. It was taking me longer to get prepared for a game in the training room than it was actually to go out and pitch. So walked into Billy Beane's office and talked to him about, "Hey man, it's time for me to call it a day and to ride into the sunset here." He asked me if I could stay 3 extra days through the Dodgers series. And I was like, "Yeah, you know what? Sure. Can you maybe not pitch me? I'm kind of barking on my shoulder." And he's like, "Sure." What happens? Friday night we play. Nope, doesn't pitch me. That's fine. Saturday comes. We're playing in the 17th inning. We go extra innings. I'm the last guy in the bullpen. And it gets to the 15th inning. Guess what happens? Phone rings. Kars, you're in the game. You got the rest of the game. You're the last guy. So I end up pitching the 16th and 17th inning. I get out of the 17th inning. I don't really know how. And, you know, I was fortunate enough that our team walked it off in Oakland. Bobby Crosby got a walk-off walk with the bases loaded. And I ended up winning my last game that I ever pitched. And then on Sunday, said goodbye to the guys. And that was my finish to my career. So, yeah, it ended up working out well. And it was a tremendous story as it finished. And it's, you know, one that I'll remember for a very long time.
That's awesome.
Scotty sounds familiar, finishing off the career and being wrapped in duct tape and staples and crazy glue and piecing the last piece together of the body.
Hey, I played 5 years overseas after that. So I kept trying to mend myself together, but I was able to get a little more mileage out of myself after the NBA. I mean, you play every day in the NBA. It's a grind. We play overseas, you play once or twice a week. It's a lot less on your body. So I excelled for a couple more years after that.
Where did you play overseas?
My first place was China. Then I went to Japan, Philippines, and Spain. So I played in all those places.
Amazing. And how did you find the level of basketball in each of those respective countries versus the NBA?
I would say Spain's the next best talented country for basketball because they have some number of great Spanish players, plus the imports that they would bring, the foreigners that would bring over, or have some guys have been in the NBA or on the cusp of being in the NBA. So, I mean, Spain was really tough. I'll tell you, like we played Tal. Tal had Splitter, Scola, and Calderon. Those are three guys who were studs who played in the NBA. So there was a lot of talent over there.
Got to see Calderon almost every day when he was on the Raptors. So
yeah.
Good guy.
And my big guy, do you remember Frederick Weiss, a French guy, Vince Carter dunked on him in the Olympics?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was my big guy in Spain.
I'm sure he has posters on his own wall and he's still reliving the moment.
I'm sure he does too, yeah.